The fate of Trump's reciprocal tariffs is now hanging in the balance, with a federal appeals court expected to deliver a decision as soon as this month, and the administration is warning of dire consequences if it loses. At the heart of the legal battle is whether the tariffs, imposed under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, were lawfully enacted. On July 31st, the appeals court heard arguments, and while a ruling could come as late as September, many expect it sooner, possibly in late August. The administration has shifted dramatically in tone, issuing increasingly urgent warnings that if the tariffs are struck down, the fallout could plunge the United States into a financial crisis on the scale of the Great Depression. According to Solicitor General D. John Sauer and Assistant Attorney General Brett Shumate, unwinding the deals built on these tariffs would be catastrophic, potentially wiping out jobs, destroying family savings, pushing millions from their homes, and even threatening Social Security and Medicare. Trump's reciprocal tariffs, often referred to as Liberation Day tariffs, were not merely symbolic. They were used as leverage to secure high-stakes trade agreements with major economic partners. The European Union, for example, pledged investments of $600 billion in the United States, along with commitments to purchase $750 billion worth of American energy products and vast amounts of U.S. weapons. Japan likewise signed on with an agreement promising $550 billion in investments. These deals were touted by the administration as proof of America's strengthened negotiating hand, but the money is not sitting in U.S. accounts. Instead, these were commitments structured around the framework created by the tariffs. And if the tariffs are struck down, those deals may legally unravel. The Justice Department's warnings to the court have grown increasingly apocalyptic. In a letter filed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, officials suggested the government could suddenly be on the hook to repay trillions of dollars in pledged commitments, something they argue would lead to financial ruin. They went even further, warning that the collapse of the tariff system would bring about a 1929-style result, with soaring unemployment, collapsing markets, and widespread social and financial upheaval. This echoes Trump's own warnings on Truth Social, where he predicted another Great Depression if the court rules against his trade policy. Yet, despite the dramatic tone, experts point out that the government has collected roughly $100 billion in tariff revenue since April, a figure that, while substantial, pales in comparison to the commitments tied to the deals. Much of this revenue also comes from sector-specific tariffs not directly at risk in this case. The real vulnerability, according to analysts like James Lucier of Alpha Capital Partners, is that Trump may not have the legal authority to replicate these reciprocal tariffs under other trade statutes if the court strikes them down. That would mean the core foundation of his trade deals simply vanishes, leaving the administration in what Lucier calls a jam. Market analysts are also weighing in on what could happen if the tariffs are overturned. A note from Yardeni Research warned that losing the case would create messy consequences. Trump has leaned heavily on tariff revenue to help close the budget debt deficit and keep bond yields lower. Without it, yields could rise, deficits could widen, and investors could lose confidence. Stock markets could experience sharp declines, not just because of the immediate financial impact, but also due to the uncertainty around how U.S. trade policy would proceed without the tariffs. In short, the administration is bracing for the possibility of a devastating court ruling that could undermine years of trade negotiations, destabilize financial markets, and shatter the image of America's economic strength abroad. The appeals court's decision will not only decide the future of Trump's signature trade policy, but could also determine whether the U.S. economy holds steady or lurches into turmoil in the months ahead.